building world class through supply chain management. And it is customary now for us to kick off with an introduction on the topic itself, and then to give you a real life case study where you can see how organizations are trying basically to create and sustain world class. I will talk about supply chain management, but not from a narrow-minded point of view, because some of you know the traditional definitions of supply chain management. I will probably extend the definition a little bit to encompass things which are concerned with the customer and the customer relationship management. But at the heart of supply chain management is this idea of speed. Why do we have to manage logistics effectively? Why do upstream or downstream? And that is because one of the key parameters of modern competitiveness is about speed. We used to say the large eats the small, but now we say the fast eats the slow. That is the world that we live in. If you are effective and quick and agile at making decisions about your business, then you outbeat your competition, and then you can establish a competitive advantage. At the heart of supply chain management is this notion of partnerships. I think that partnerships means you have to break down barriers, you have to be willing to share information, to share knowledge, and to build a common infrastructure basically for having an extended value chain that serves the customers, the consumers, and you can push it from one tier to another. And if you still believe that competition is important and therefore barriers are good to have, then I think you will not be able to compete in a modern business environment. So competition is dead, and I think alliances and partnerships or something we coined, co-opetition, is the way forward. So let me just spend a couple of minutes to say what we understand by supply chain management, and I will deliberately want you to highlight some of the key words. First of all, it's an integrated, and the word integrated here is very important, an integrated view of the business. And it includes within that all the activities involved in the transfer of goods, raw materials, through a conversion process, value-added downstream activities, all the way until the end customer. That is the chain, and that is what supply chain is about. It is not logistics management. Logistics is a subset of supply chain management. Supply chain management is all the activities. Upstream logistics by sourcing in from suppliers and what have you. Downstream logistics by delivering to the customer. So we're talking about materials, we're talking about information, the flow of finance, and the innovation and learning that is associated with the conversion and the value added all the way to the consumers. Now, at this juncture, I would like to say that this concept was born in manufacturing. And perhaps the examples that we have tonight, more or less, are in manufacturing. But let me reassure you by saying that the philosophy of supply chain management is applicable to the service industry, is applicable to hospitals, and to non-profit making organizations. It is about logistics in, conversion, value added, and logistics out. If you are in a hospital, the logistics in are, the patients and how you handle them from the GPs all the way to the, if you like, the medical centers or what have you. It's their medical records. It could be the consumables that you use in the wards, in the beds, and so on. And the management of the wards is part of supply chain management, and the delivery is basically patients who are cured and who can go back to society and can go back to their GPs for follow-up. So it is basically simulating a value chain. It is the integrated aspects of that value chain. So we're not really looking at product push or service push, which is the conventional way of managing, but through silos and, if you like, through these isolated activities. Here we are saying the customer need drives the supply chain. So we are reacting to an actual, real customer demand. You trigger your upward logistics because the customer has placed an order. So therefore, your suppliers will give you the raw materials and the things that you need for converting the needs of those customers. And you push them down into finished goods and products for the end customer. So it's pushing things that satisfy the requirements of the customer and not pushing products out or services out that nobody has asked for, which tended to be the conventional way of working. So in a sense, I think we've learned something here, that waste is not good, overcapacity is not good, building big warehouses is not good, and proliferation is not good. You see, we satisfy the needs and requirements, and we replenish the needs and the requirements by having customer relationships and then triggering an innovation activity that will keep the flow of competitiveness going. So the value really can be seen in what organizations are achieving nowadays. And I would like very quickly to show you the experience of 3 organizations, and they are all big names. You would have seen them before. What they have achieved from managing their supply chains effectively. Walmart, Coca-Cola, and Dell, they all consistently outperform their competitors in terms of shareholder value growth. And this is not something over a year or 2 years. This has been something that they managed to sustain for nearly 10 years. And that demonstrates that once you build the highway system, once you build your supply chain effectively, then you can predict the outcomes in terms of benefits to you as an organization and to the customer as well. If we look at some statistics, for example, Walmart exceeds industry average by nearly 250% in terms of growth, Coca-Cola by 500%, Dell Computers by over 3,000%. If you remember last week, we talked about Dell Computers, and we said that they are the ones who really believe that competition is dead. Co-opetition is really the recipe for success, because they don't own any factories, they don't have any warehouses, they work through partnerships and through alliances, they take the customer order, and then they get others to build the computers on behalf of their customers, and they deliver something which is customized to your doorstep. And no wonder, therefore, that they're growing at an incredible rate. So the concept of speed here is validated, so the fast can eat the slow. This is just another study which demonstrates basically the difference between best-in-class organizations and the average organization. And I would like you to understand this chart from the cost of not managing the value chain effectively. So the blue peaks are demonstrating a slick and effective way of managing with least cost, maximum value. So therefore, the amounts of money that these industries are investing in their maintenance of their supply chain is less than the average, if you like, organizations who haven't mastered the principles of supply chain and who haven't built an integrated, extended supply chain. Yeah, some more benefits here, and you can see the statistics. Costs is a key thing, and you can see the effective supply chain lowers costs by anything up to 60%. Forecast accuracy, because you are working on a fast cycle. The old forecasting techniques now are redundant, because you're predicting basically what the demand is going to be, because you are integrated with your customer downstream. You can only place an order on the same day, and your supplier is integrated upstream, and they will deliver you precisely what you want, the quantities that you want, at no additional cost to you. So you don't have to store. You consume and you use, you convert, and you deliver to your customer. So you can imagine with this type of logic, because information is available, technology integrates the activities, and breaking down the silos and creating this seamless approach to work enables organizations, therefore, to achieve these immense benefits. And the fill rate is there, 30% of new orders and reordering, because the customer basically have that confidence and the customer wants to work in partnerships. Other studies are very consistent, basically, with the outcomes, reducing waste, reducing cost of inventory, storage, and so on, increasing the accuracy and reliability of deliveries, because what you predict is really for today, for this week, and you don't have to commit for 6 months, because the customer wants small lots, regular deliveries, predictable performance. That's what they want. And so on. 80% of the savings from supply chain management, by the way, don't come from IT implementation. I'm sure Umesh is going to reinforce this message, and he will tell you precisely what Allah tried to do, because there is a fallacy here. There is people who think, well, I will buy an SAP package and everything is going to be okay. We will drive out costs, we will achieve predictable deliveries, and so on and so forth. IT is an enabler. Unless you fundamentally build the processes and radically change the activities, break down the silos, build the competencies of your personnel so that they are engaging with the customer, they are engaging with the suppliers, and they're actually manipulating the information which is at their fingertips. Unless you do that, you can forget about benefiting from supply chain. So supply chain does not equate IT. IT is just an enabler. Competencies and process mentality. And all of it has got to be integrated, by the way. People with the IT, with the information in the right place, in the right format, at the right time. The process means that the interconnectivity between upstream and downstream activities is there. And basically, the vision is in total alignment. You see, everybody is focusing on one customer. All the objectives are clearly defined and cascaded. And then, therefore, you start to enjoy that investment and that work. The downstream cooperation with suppliers means that 20/80 rule here, you see. It's better to work with those that give you high leverage. They can help you at least serve the bulk of your customers. Those are the kind of partnerships that you should foster. You cannot work on an equal footing with every single customer. Many of those will let you down. Many of those are not equipped basically to serve your customers in the way you intend. Many of them are not committed to partnerships. So rationalization of suppliers does not mean you go down. You go down in terms of bureaucracy, in terms of numbers, in terms of cost. But you go up in terms of predictability, in terms of confidence, and in terms of that cooperation and competition that we talked about. And 10 to 40% on average is the typical saving that you achieve from rationalization. We've done some work here at the European Centre of TQM, putting a model for supplier partnerships, and a model that perhaps could enable organizations to go through a process of rationalization. And we have under each of those parameters basically some criteria for defining what we mean by partnership process. There are 5 pillars on which you can measure these so-called likely partners. Each pillar has been given a particular weighting, and you can measure the performance of your existing supplier base based on the methodology that we've developed, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to give you more details on this, but it's some work we've done, and it has been applied within Unilever. Remember, suppliers is one angle, but the other thing is this communication of needs for the present, for the future, and how to communicate them upstream to your suppliers. So it's a knock-on effect. And the more accurate is the information, the more timely it is, the more complete it is, and the more transparent the message is, the more beneficial are the outcomes of supply chain. So I will show you a chart which tells you what goes up and what goes down, comes down, and basically how to create that seamlessness and that synchronized and integrated approach to building partnerships. Now, when we talk about competitive, it's not just cost, or it's not just the profit. I mean, in most benchmarking studies, we have identified that the world-class organizations focus on other factors than just cost or price. It's really leveraging, you see, intelligence, information, sharing databases, sharing technologies, sharing competencies and skills is valued to be, if you like, although intangible, is valued more than just the absolute and, if you like, consequential benefits, which tend to be financial in nature. Well, upstream, basically, you know, your customer, if they commit to you and they share with you their vision, you know what you can do with it. You know, as simple as that. And that's one of the benefits that have been achieved through supply chain management. Particularly if you look at sectors like the automobile sector. I mean, you know, if you go to a factory now where they assemble cars, 2/3 of the workforce that you see in different uniforms are suppliers. They own parts of the sub-assembly plants. They bring in their equipment, they bring in their work, and then they manage their processes. They hand over the work to the next team down the line, who could be another supplier, fully integrated. And only 1/3 of the personnel that you see are the branded people, you know, the car manufacturers. So this is how far we have traveled. In aerospace, it's even better. You know, if you look at NASA, for example, you know, they have something like 3,300 suppliers, and they all build the excellence, if you like, in terms of aerospace technology. And they own, they're integrated, they own parts of the processes. So I think that's how far you can go with supply chain management. So it's not outsourcing, because outsourcing is just throwing it to somebody else who can do it cheaper and perhaps better. So that's one aspect. The middle side is the side that traditionally we talk about a lot, which is the operational efficiency. Umesh will tell you something about what Allah has achieved there. It's really saying, let's minimize waste, let's minimize the flow of raw materials. You know, let's not have bulky pallets of things waiting to be dealt with. In hospitals, let's minimize having beds which are empty. Let's not have too many wards, you know, one with 2 patients, the other one with 25 patients. You know, let's try to use some logic here by streamlining and driving out cost and building value to the end customer at the end of the day. So it's at every point. I mean, you can see that's in capital. Every point in the conversion chain, in the pipeline. And if you apply this simple logic of combating waste, looking at plan, do, check, act, ways and means basically for delivering more value to the customer, you will see the end result. You'll see the speed, you'll see the transparency, you'll see the integration, you will see the alignment behind the same goal, because people see a transparent environment, and hence the process management mentality that we will talk about over the next few weeks. This is basically the slogan that's coming from proponents of supply chain management like Cisco and Dell, and they say, well, we own the brand name and the only thing we sell is customer satisfaction. We don't sell product, we don't sell computer systems, you know. We sell customer satisfaction, because all of our energies and efforts are devoted towards serving the customer right, delivering on time, being a reliable supplier, being consistent with our quality, replenishing their needs by investing in innovation and so on and so forth, and being close to them to deal with their queries, resolving their complaints and so on. That is the only thing that matters. Everything else you can outsource. Everything else, somebody somewhere might be better equipped to help you than yourselves. But one key driver, if you say, what is the trick here? You know, how can you work in partnerships with your suppliers and other partners? Is trust. You have to trust, and you have to work long term, and you have to open up and share information. The more you share, the more reliable is that supplier. The least you share, the least you're going to get. You only get problems. So trust is really fundamentally the most important. I said I'll show you a slide on the enterprise supply chain view, and basically it shows the value chain from the right hand side. You source Inward logistics, you convert or you make, and then you deliver. Outward logistics, information flows up and down in a synchronized way. You deliver capital goods to the customer, dotted line, they ensure your survival. Cash flow is not an issue for you. You support them with service, with backup, with support, and what comes up your way is new ideas for new products and so on. And you can extend this principle, by the way, from B2B, B2C, B2CC, you know, and you can keep it up. It doesn't matter. The philosophy is about this piece of string, that piece of string, and you can elongate it by having an extended supply chain or an extended value chain. I'd like just to finish very quickly by reminding ourselves, and maybe Umesh will focus on one or two of those, that world-class supply chains focus on three conditions, which we call structural changes. And that's the discipline that will really make the difference between those who are serious about it and those who are not. First of all, you must collaborate with partners and synchronize operations. You know, if I am going in this direction and I want you to hook with me and you want to go in that direction, obviously it's not going to work. So collaboration means breaking down the barriers, means sharing the same vision, building the same commitment, taking the same risk, but also sharing the same benefit. Technology and the web are key enablers to innovative supply chain strategy. E-commerce is real, it's here to stay. CRM is already working, and you can see it in the retail market, you can see it in banking, you can see it in the airline industry, you can see it in hotels. So it does exist. You go to those industries and you say, can you revert back to the old days of dealing with a customer through the letter or through the telephone or the odd visit here and there? And they will say, no way, because now it's the lifeblood of their businesses. So it does exist and it's real. And the third point I want to make is that organization will be restructured and reskilled to achieve this goal. Now, what does restructure mean? It doesn't mean the cosmetic change. It actually means fundamentally breaking down the business and rebuilding it from a logic that focuses on the customer, that focuses on delivering consistent quality and value, and that doesn't focus on prima donnas, and power base and barons, inside the organization. Unless you're serious to do that, then it's not going to work. And I will let Umesh elaborate on this point. So that's me. I'm going to stop here.